Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. News is happening very quickly right now. You got to kind of stay on top of the news cycle these days, and it's a 24-hour news cycle. To be sure, there's just incredible stuff happening, and this is from RT, RussiaToday.com. And now I'm hearing places that are starting to prevent people accessing some of these Russian sites for fear, the government says, of Russian propaganda. But I think this is a fairly valid. Airspace over St. Petersburg closed amid UFO reports. So is Russia getting into the UFO game just like the U.S. was in order to create a narrative against a particular country? Well, there have been some drones and some various covert attacks inside Russia from the Ukrainians. And this could be exactly what this is. But this is kind of breaking news. February 28th. The airspace near St. Petersburg, Russia, the second largest city, was briefly closed Tuesday morning due to the appearance of an unidentified flying object. The flights were halted for around an hour before resuming in full, the city authorities announced on Telegram. So apparently Telegram is the place to go for news related to that. Here it is. Unidentified drone crashes near Moscow. UAV reportedly fallen near a Gazprom compression station. So an direct attack inside Russia against Gazprom. So who is supporting the Ukrainians, of course, with this, when the Ukrainians can't even, take Bakhmut and push back the Russians there. They're flying drones apparently into Russia, and I think all with the help of you-know-who. Unmanned aerial vehicle crashed near a Gazprom facility. So another, this would be reported inside the country as a mysterious explosion. Of course, they probably, I don't know if the Russians see that there's UAVs coming in. Certainly in the U.S., where there's mysterious explosions at gas plants, oil facilities, pipelines, etc. They certainly don't tell us what those are. Now, I'm not suggesting they're UAV. Drones coming in, but there could very well be covert activities by foreign forces to make trouble and hopefully, in their idea, hopefully make the U.S. government think twice about supporting Ukraine. The governor added that security services and other agencies are investigating the incident and that there is no danger to the population. Now, this has kind of been a sort of a red line for Russia, although Russia hasn't acted on it. This is a picture of the drone. Apparently, drone crashes near Koloma, Western Russia, suspected to be targeting civilian infrastructure. Russia's been holding back against this, although they have said, if Ukrainians start attacking Russia proper, and they've specifically said Ukraine, etc., then that would mean all out war and great repercussions would be coming, more so than are already happening in Ukraine. Now, on top of this, Russia is saying, and you take it for what it's worth, think about it, and think about who would benefit from such an action. According to Russia, the U.S. is preparing a false flag chemical attack. Have there been any chemical attacks recently that you know of in maybe a country near you or in your country? Interesting, right? Is the U.S. preparing a chemical attack? Now, the suggestion was about the Ohio train derailment that those chemicals were headed to the eastern seaboard. There was some suggestion that maybe they were headed there because they were going to be shipped somewhere to be used in some fashion. Note that, of course, those chemicals were used, was it in World War I? Anti-personnel chemicals. And here we have now all of a sudden Russia suggesting that maybe U.S. is preparing this. Again, I don't know if this could be propaganda. This is, Russia Today. But it says the U.S. is preparing to stage a false flag chemical attack in Ukraine to pin the blame on Moscow. Now, both sides are playing this game. They're saying the other side's going to use a nuclear weapon or a dirty bomb. And both sides, could gain from this depending on who looks to be the provocateur, the person who does, implements the chemical weapon or the nuclear attack. And so it could play in the favor of either. And if it is a covert operation, if they do it well enough, of course, it could sway public opinion one way or the other. It's incredible that a nuclear weapon hasn't been used yet, but so they want to blame Moscow for the use of banned toxic agents. And to use a World War I toxic agent, such as that, vinyl chloride or whatever, and the toxins, the dioxides that come out of that, to use a kind of a quote-unquote old-fashioned sort of chemical could very well be used by Western countries to make it look like Russia has some old stock chemicals that maybe they would like to use against the Ukrainians. So, folks, I think my YouTube channel is probably going to get banned for this kind of stuff ultimately, because they're going to start saying I'm a Russian propagandist or something. But both sides are evil, folks. There's fraud and corruption on both sides. This is a war that we don't need, and no one is really looking to come to the table to talk peace. And so they're both at fault here. Russian Defense Minister has obtained information that a train with cargo of chemical substances and its cars had apparently arrived in the Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk in Donbass February 10th. A train carrying a cargo of chemical substances. That kind of just happened, didn't it? Interesting, right? You start putting the pieces together and you start seeing similarities on both sides. Are both sides into this? 16 metal boxes with special markings suggest they contained BZ. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Incapacitating agent, so an anti-personnel agent, as well as CS, chlorobenzyl nematril. Anyways, you can try and read that. And this dialbenzopene harassing riot control agent. So there you go. The chemicals were unloaded at a local metallurgical plant under the supervision of Ukraine's security service and put on U.S.-supplied armored vehicles that later moved out towards a contact as part of a convoy. So, have chemical weapons been used? It seems as though they have been. Have there been massive chemical spills? Where there have been. Were they headed for the eastern seaboard? Maybe for transfer, maybe to provoke a response. And both sides, neither sides are, above using this sort of escalation. Both sides seem to be pushing this escalation. Neither side is really looking for peace. And now we have China in the game. So look for the chemicals to come out, and then the dirty bombs, and then the nuclear weapons. Maybe that's the way this is going to go, hoping, one side hopes that the other is going to blink and say, okay, this has gone too far. But I don't think that's the case. Now, I'll share Canadian Prepper's comments, although he may be using them in a hyperbolic sense. But I'm not sure that this ends. I'm not sure that we get out of World War III at this point. There's been so much money spent to this point, so many weapons. For one side to fold, it doesn't make sense. They've invested so much into it. NATO has invested so much into Ukraine that it doesn't make sense that they would all of a sudden decide to fold and say, okay, we'll put our hands up, we'll come to the peace table and talk about an agreement. It doesn't make sense. And the U.S. seems to have put a timeline on this battle. They want it wrapped up before fall. So is that the case? Is this going to ratchet up before fall? The U.S. seems to not be interested in talking peace at this point. I'll leave there, guys. Thanks for watching. Check all the news sources. That includes CNN. That includes CNBC. I think there was an interesting article on CNBC. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick here. Not CNN. I don't want CNN. CNBC. By the way, this is a time to be watching the markets too. This is just the time of year when markets could see a dip, maybe even a correction, or worse than that. And many people have called for significant economic trouble, and I think it will come. It will probably take the start of World War III to crash the markets, but they're having trouble right now, and we're certainly in a recession. So hey, this is CNBC, your favorite mainstream financial news website. Moscow, and this is live news. Moscow accuses the U.S. of preparing toxic chemical provocation. Again, because Ukrainians are not winning in Bakhmut. Belarus says it can produce weapons with Russia, so Belarus is in the game. Ukrainian President Zelensky acknowledged Monday that the situation is deteriorating in Bakhmut. In the Bakhmut direction, the situation is getting more and more difficult, Zelensky said. The enemy is constantly destroying everything that can be used to protect our positions. That means Zelensky, Ukrainian army, and even NATO may be getting desperate to distract and to move forces away to do something about that. And it's going to be a great loss if they lose Bakhmut. So be prepared for anything, folks. Toxic chemicals, we've recently seen that in the U.S. And could that have been maybe Russia kind of fending off the transfer of some chemicals to Ukraine by doing something preemptively in the U.S.? You got to start in this, this World War III and this build up to World War III, at least overt World War III. We've been in it for over a year now. You need to consider that all the strange things happening, maybe there is some connection to them all. Maybe they're all covert operations by either side to create narrative, to push a narrative ahead, to change public opinion, to distract the public from what's happening. And so you need to read all media sources, left, right, Democratic, Republican, conservative, liberal sources. Read them all. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. There are lies and propaganda on both sides, and read them all to get an understanding of what's happening. There's always a grain of truth pretty much in all articles written on either side. And so you need to kind of read through the between the sentences, understand what that grain of truth is, and then go to the next article and pick out the next grain of truth from that. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.